Hello, everyone, and welcome to another great episode of the Coin Drop Podcast. Joining me on the reg, we got Tim. How you doing, Tim? How's your week been?
Busy. I had a root canal on Monday. That was fun.
No.
Nothing
about that sounds fun.
Right? I was in the chair for 3+ hours minimum. And on the positive side, I couldn't feel shit. But after 3 hours of holding my mouth opened, it hurt just to open it after that. And then we started 610s on Monday as well. And so I've been working my ass off. In the past 2 days, I've worked from 6 a.m. to about 10 p.m.
60 hours of work a week. That's wild, bro. That's some military grade shit right there.
The pay is good, though, and I could really use it right now.
The one benefit of not being a fucking salary employee for the military is actually getting the money you make for working those 10s.
And right now, I'm only making 60% of what I could be. So in a couple of years, I'll be making 100%.
Yeah. But, you'll be making more. My weekend's been pretty off the rails. The wife and I ordered dirt for our backyard, so we're getting that on the 1st. So it's been kind of a mad scramble to get the yard ready for fresh topsoil, so we can put the irrigation in, so we can put grass in. So it's been work, come home, work some more, and then also work out. So that's been I've been burning the candle at both ends this week, and it's catching up to me.
You have home workout equipment though, right? At least.
So I'm still doing the Supernatural workout, which has been fucking phenomenal, dude. I got to be honest. I'm on medium.
Supernatural.
It's that boxing thing we talked about like
okay, that's what I thought. I just forgot the name. Yeah,
it's a really shitty name for a boxing app because the first place everybody goes is the Winchesters from the fucking AMC show or whatever it was. Yes. But that's absolutely the first place anybody goes. Choosing Supernatural as their name was a dumb choice, but the workout's great. So I've changed up my routine a little bit. I only do 3 days a week of boxing, and now I'm back in the gym 2 days a week. So that's been really cool. But it also was a lot this week to try and do that plus more yard work plus my active job. So just a
the
lot.
The real question though is the supernatural stuff really working for you though? I remember that was one of the things that
so that and having an actual balanced hormone system has definitely helped. I have lost about 30 pounds since last October. I am 2 pounds shy, roughly 2 to 4 pounds shy of the lightest and healthiest I've been in about a decade. So I'm in pretty good shape. Yeah. The boxing's been great. It's fun, and when I first started the medium workouts, I had to pause multiple times to catch my breath, and now I'm making it through the workouts without having to stop. So I can see my own endurance getting better and stuff. And I've toyed with the idea of recording my workouts and making my own YouTube channel for posting them. Mainly for me, because I see my form from inside the headset, so I've got no reference on how well I'm actually doing. But I figure there's people out there that like watching Beat Saber. Maybe they'll like watching that too. Fuck if I know.
And worst case scenario, you can use it as a reference for yourself.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, that's mainly what I'm doing it for. It can't be monetized because it's all licensed music. So it'll never be monetized. So it's never something I'd make money off of, but it'd be, I don't know, it's kind of fun. I actually really enjoy it. So if that's something people are interested in, maybe I'll do that. Stream chopping logs. You won't. I will. I sure as hell will. Tell you what, this spring I will make a Twitch or a YouTube. I'll stream chopping logs or something. We'll see. 1% totally chop logs.
Is that a thing you can do in that game?
No. I think he means legitimately chopping logs, actually cutting wood. So I've got wood. I mean, I split wood every year, so.
I'm gonna be doing that pretty shortly. We're about to start clearing the backyard, and I'll be doing that too.
So, but yeah, I mean, that's been my week, just trying to make it through and a lot of stuff. Yes. So, the shadow boxing, I'm going to try that sentence again. The shadow boxing is quote unquote IRL. It's in a VR headset, but it is just like any workout. You get as much out of it as you put into it. So if you are actually willing to treat it like it's real, it's a pretty solid workout. It's a pretty solid workout. Yeah, but it's been great. So let's talk about some games. But before we jump to that, Tim, you got some details for us for this giveaway we're doing, right? For our 1 year?
Yeah, so next week is the vaulted 1 year anniversary of the Coin Drops podcast's return. And I've decided to go ahead and give away some stuff. Really, a thing.
A thing.
Stuff.
A thing.
But,
a thing that has stuff.
Yeah, so last week I effectively teased, but kind of told you. But anyways, I'm going to stop beating around the bush. I'm giving away a month of...
Humble Bundle.
The name escaped me. Humble Bundle Choice.
Yep.
Yes. The reason why I'm doing only a month is because Humble Bundle doesn't allow you to choose, say, 3 months or 6 months or something like that. It's 1 month or 1 year, and 1 year is a little bit out of my price range. So I might potentially choose more than one. However, with that said, there will be stipulations. You will have to follow us on Twitch, on YouTube, or on Spotify. One of the three. It doesn't matter. If you screenshot it or prove somehow that you have followed us in some way, and then you come to our Discord, which you can find all of our links in all of those different areas. Come to the Discord and tell us that you followed us. Prove as much, and then you'll be entered into the drawing to get a free month of Humble Bundle Choice. Which, by the way, if you're unaware, Humble Bundle Choice is a subscription service for PC games where they give games, a selection of games every single month, and they're usually worth more than a couple $100 each month. There's usually somewhere between 4 and 8 games. It's not the same every single month, but there's always something at least worth it in there. And it's going to be, one, it's free. Two, it'll be worth your time. So if you're interested at all in that, like I said, follow us on one of those platforms, come to our Discord, let us know you're interested, and I will pick somebody. We're going to give people a length of time.
Yeah, we're going to give a month.
About a month. Yeah, we're going to give the length of time to do this, and then I will announce the winners.
So the drawing will be at the end of
Discord.
Yeah, the drawing will be at the end of next month. For all of you in our Discord currently, if you are interested, go ahead and just say, hey, add me to the list. We'll make sure your name gets in there. For those of you who are interested, who are not in our Discord currently, join. What are you waiting for? Do it. It's free. Doesn't cost you anything. We talk about stuff. It's fun. And also follow us on Twitch. If you're listening to this on the podcast side, it's twitch.tv/CoinDropVets. Our YouTube, I believe, God damn, I haven't plugged our YouTube.
VODs?
There it is. YouTube at CoinDropVods. Subscribe, follow us there. If you listen on Spotify, leave a comment, leave a review. Let us know that you're listening and you want in on the drawing, and we will make sure you get added as well.
Hey, I just thought of something. If you give us any sort of feedback on this podcast, I'll give you an extra entry.
Whoa! 2 entries. Let's add a little bit of a caveat there. Let's make it constructive feedback. Whether it's positive or negative doesn't matter, but constructive feedback helps. There you go. 2 entries. That doubles your odds. So we'll talk about that again at the end of the episode, just to plug it again, so you guys have it. And again, this will be starting when this episode goes live. That drawing starts, I guess, from this point forward. That drawing starts, and it will end in 1 month, in 30 calendar days. So you got plenty of time. We'll make sure to re-announce it, remind you about it every week until the drawing.
And if you know anybody that plays PC games, tell them to enter. Just tell them to follow us and go on Discord. I mean, the more people, the better. I mean, yeah, more or less. Tell people. That'd be great.
Tell people we said hi. But more specifically, let's tell Lilith we say hi. Hey, good segue. As we talk about some Diablo. Yeah, proud of myself for that one. As we talk about some Diablo 4 news. So, I'm a big Diablo fan. I've been a Diablo fan, since the first game, since I was a kid. Yeah, wild. I'm only sitting in a Diablo 4 chair, you know? So kind of maybe a little bit of fan. Only have a little bit of fandom for the franchise, you know? Only a little bit.
What?
It's the Soul Stone, Diablo Soul Stone. Anyways,
gotcha.
Yeah. Well, fuck you. It's just my other chair. So, Diablo is getting ready to launch their 4th season. And they're making a lot of changes.
Oh, it's so famous.
Yeah, and some articles I'm going to say right now, once again, news sources are clickbaiting everybody. I think I saw one, and Chris and I talked about it, was the article was like, Blizzard is killing Diablo with their latest update. It's practically a new game. It's like, no. So let's get into it, I guess. They're adding a ton of stuff, right? And there's some changes here that make me legitimately want to go back to the game, and there's some changes here that make me go, nah, I don't have any interest, never mind. They're making huge changes to the looting system. They're adding new dungeons. They're changing how the Codex of Power works. All of this is discussed in their campfire chat. If you guys want to watch that, I'll throw a link in the description for this video when it goes live on YouTube. Mike, make sure you do that, and I'll plug it for the audio listeners as well, so it'll be in the description for you guys. How do I even start this? Okay.
No, the only credit I'm going to give is there was an article that I noticed that was similar to that one, in the sense of it said something to the effect of the changes are so vast that it might as well be a new game. And yeah, that's obviously still a stretch. It's a bit hyperbolic, but they are changing a lot about the game to where it will feel different. Yeah. Because it's going to allow for a lot of different builds, or for you to build the way you want to. And it also does feel like they're sort of copying other games, like say Last Epic.
Yep. Last Epoch.
Epoch, Epic, whatever. I don't necessarily think they're bad changes, although I'm not as deep into the game as you are. So yeah.
So no, on the surface, a lot of them are actually really good changes. They're adding 2 new types of crafting, which are... The game is getting too much into crafting, in my opinion. Diablo was all about the loot, not about... It's all about getting the loot, not crafting the loot. One of the greatest things to ever happen to me in my entire gaming history was playing Diablo 2 and doing Mephisto runs for fucking ever to try and get a Harlequin's crest to drop, and finally fucking getting it. Like, hundreds of hours. Reload,
log out of that game, reload, kill Mephisto, rinse and repeat.
Yeah,
ad nauseum.
Yes, literally till you have seen every possible version of every type. Anyways, like, yes, it's a grind. Yes, it kind of sucks, but it's that thing we talk about a couple of times, and I guess it's just being an old gamer. I don't know, but it's that level of commitment that it takes to achieve something, and that level of pride you feel when you get it. I feel like that is missing in games, and it's getting dumbed down and watered down to a stupid level. So, prime example for that. Go ahead.
I agree with you. I don't have, like, so I played Diablo 2 often enough to have experienced that as well, but for me that experience is more in Final Fantasy 11, where there's this monster that spawns once every 24 hours, real hours.
Yeah.
And so people are always sitting there camping it in hopes that they can be the one that claim it, because if you claim it, then the drops are yours guaranteed.
Right.
So there's always people waiting around, and I remember I sat there and camped it for a little while, and I managed to get the 0.1% drop out of it as well, and it was an extremely useful item. So I understand.
Yeah.
And the way they're changing it, it does feel, I don't know, like
cheap.
It feels like instead of equality of equality of opportunity, it's like equality of outcome. That's what it feels like to me, and I don't like it.
So basically, these new crafting systems, what are they called? Tempering and master crafting, if I remember correctly. Yeah, tempering and master working. They allow you to change just massive amounts of basically everything about the gear, and you can now level up your legendaries, and every time you level them up, their stats go up to like, I don't know what the cap is, because their display here shows rank 2 and 3, 4 of 12. It goes up to rank 12. And like the first rank, it changes some stats, so I don't know if it picks one and it's random what it upgrades, but it's a substantial upgrade. For example...
So it almost makes me wonder if... So Genshin Impact, what it does is there's like stats or additional stats that it'll throw on there, and those stats are randomized.
Yeah.
And they're, bonus to this or that or whatever. and they might have 2 or 3 automatically, but they can only maximum have 4 as you level them up. And as you hit certain milestones, like every 3 levels or something like that, it will then level up one of those randomly. And so getting an item not only with the stats that you want, but then to upgrade the stats you want is really difficult. And it almost makes me wonder if that's the route they're going, because Genshin Impact is so freaking popular. It would make sense for them to go that route, because that does keep people constantly in that loot grind in hopes that they'll get what they want, rather than just effectively buying what they want.
Yeah.
Not with real money, but yeah.
So that kind of is what they're doing. But Diablo is always a loot game. It's always been stupid amounts of loot and trying to find the good item, right? So now what you've done is you've changed it to, well, I don't need to find this ultra good item. I need to find an okay item that I'm comfortable spending the next 40 hours grinding materials and getting resources to upgrade that okay item to making it an ultra great item. And that's where I have the issue. Is it's now more so heavily focused on the crafting. It's not about finding that really, like, holy shit, fuck, I can't believe I got a fucking Harlequin's crest. Like, I can't believe a Shaco dropped. What, like, that's huge, right? They've made it to where it's like, oh, how's this? No, I don't like that gear. How about this? No, that one doesn't quite have the stats. What about this? So now you're inspecting literally every rare that you get to see if it's what you want and what you can work with to make better. And it just, that's not what I want to go into a dungeon. I want to smash enemies. I want to loot shit. I want to find the item and slap it on. And then I want to go right back to crushing enemies. I don't want to grind and get a piece of gear and then grind to get resources to craft that piece of gear, to grind to get resources to upgrade that piece of gear. That's not fun to me. That's not Diablo. And I get it. I'm just one guy. That's just my opinion. Been a fan of this franchise. I'm still probably going to buy the expansion. I love the story of Diablo. I love the art of Diablo. I love a lot of Diablo, but this change kind of upsets me. There's one more big change that upsets me.
Before you continue, I hate to tell you that pretty much all of the popular games these days that are live service are this way.
Yeah. Yeah.
So they're effectively chasing a trend that they were trying to avoid. At least I'm going to give them the benefit of the doubt and say they were trying to avoid it and make it old school. But given that the industry has moved away from the old school and clearly it didn't work for them, it makes sense that they're going this route, because it does allow that more casual player to build what they want, rather than just in hopes to find the meta.
So that's the good thing about this, is what this has done for builds is vastly open things up and allow for a lot of build crafting and really creating what you want. But what I have an issue with is the problem I had with Path of Exile. It's the same thing I had with Path of Exile, which is there's too much. There's too much. There's too many different routes in Path of Exile to go down. There's too many different choices. There's too much theory crafting. There's too many.
Vast.
Yeah, it's massive. And if that's your thing, if that's what you really get into, it's a fantastic game. But as somebody who enjoys the gameplay loop of going into a dungeon, crushing enemies, getting loot, throwing on a slightly better piece of gear and doing it again in hopes of getting another slightly better piece of gear, that's what I'm about. That's what I want. I don't want to get a gear that I'm like, well, if I do this and apply that and get this one and then go here and crush this guy and get this and then do that, then this item will be good. No, I'm not here for that. That's not what I'm here for. So it opens up a lot of potential for making some really cool builds. I hope that I go back to play it at some point to see how it actually plays out. But the one big change that they've done that really doesn't sit well with me is what they've done to the Codex of Power. Did you read about that?
I did not.
Okay.
And mostly because, unfortunately, the Diablo 4 has been sort of that game that me and the wife were playing together, and then she doesn't play games nearly as often as I would like her to. And so I then was playing other things in hopes that she would come back, and then she never came back, and so I never went back.
Yeah.
Although, watching this, I'm like, I want to play this game right now.
Dude, it's actually like this. The
know it's
story
good. I know
alone,
it is.
yeah, the story alone is worth playing through, as I did in my redacted statements, which were fantastic. But the Codex of Power, right? You know, that was the tome you got that you cleared a dungeon and it gave you a certain power. It gave you like one of, I think, 30 or something like that. It gave you the legendary affix, but it gave you the weakest possible version of it, right? And it wasn't all the affixes in the game. There were some legendary powers you couldn't get from doing dungeons. You had to actually find that item that actually had it, right? Mm-hmm. So they've changed it to where now every single affix is in the Codex of Power. So there are more dungeons to do to unlock every single legendary affix. If they would have stopped there, I wouldn't have an issue. They went further. If you get it and put it in your Codex, so if you clear the dungeon, not only do you have the capability of getting every single legendary power, you get it at its highest capabilities. You get it at its best point to be reused forever. Period.
So does this effectively make you OP?
This effectively makes it so once you have gotten a single legendary affix from doing these dungeons, you never have to find. It makes the loot irrelevant. Because now when a legendary drops, if you've already got that affix, you could have slapped that on anything, and that gear that dropped is a random stat for that legendary affix, where your Codex is the max possible roll.
I wonder if this is going to allow for more varied builds, or if it's going to be more in like, obviously they're expecting and or hoping more varied builds, but like, is it really going to actually just narrow what the meta is, and people are just going to flock to whatever the best is? It's an interesting question.
Yeah.
I hope they can balance it to where it allows for more varied builds, so that way you have plenty of optional choices, and you know, this will outweigh that, and you'll have people with different builds to combat each other.
Yeah. I'm curious to see what they do. I miss, like, don't get me wrong. Looking at it through the lens of time, Diablo 2 and their Uber drops were good and they were fun because we didn't have the amount and the quality of games back then that we have now. So that system worked because Diablo 2 was like, that's it, man. Like, there
wasn't a whole lot of competitors. Yeah.
There wasn't much out there. Consoles were just being a thing for the most part. Like, it was PS2 era. So, you know, you've got some great console games, don't get me wrong, but action RPGs like Diablo? Yeah. Not a lot.
Yeah. I mean, just to give you an example, there's been like seven or eight 90 plus Metacritic games this year already.
Yeah.
And I want every single one of them, and there's more coming. And this year's, let alone last year, it's going to be, yeah. That's the reason why I haven't gone back to D4 is because there's so much to grab my attention. Hell, we're going to be talking about this, and I was planning on saving this particular topic for later, but I bought this yesterday, and it's still in its plastic. I haven't opened it yet.
Yeah.
And that's probably, it's probably going to be open tonight, but I'm going to get a couple hours maybe, and then not touch it again for a week.
And so, like, that's why that gear grind that Andromedus mentions here, he said, you know, spending 30 plus hours in a 30-second fight to grind 2% Uber drops isn't exactly fun either. And when I thought about it, I was like, you know what, you're right. Nowadays, that isn't fun because there's other games you can go have fun in.
Nuts.
But back then, it was fine. So, like, they're trying to find this balance of what was fun then and what's fun now, and I feel like they're missing the mark. It's just my opinion. I think this potentially opens up a lot of capability for build playing and, like, making what you want to make rather than having to play the meta to really push the higher tier stuff. But I don't know. I'm not too happy to hear that they've completely thrown away the Codex of Power, which the whole point of that was to have the legendary affix at its worst stats just so you could have it, so you could start your build and start to push, and then you still had the fun of hunting for that gear. So
yeah, that's probably the only thing so far that I've heard that I dislike, mostly because really the only games that I've gotten into other than D2 that I had to work at was Genshin Impact and Honkai Star Rail, and I like those systems because they're random enough for me to have to work at getting what I want, but there's still so much other content that you can do to kind of break up the monotony of constantly repeating yourself.
Yeah.
And it feels like they're trying to sort of combat what I just stated, the monotony, by giving you the best at the beginning rather than the worst as far as the Codex of Powers goes.
Yeah.
So I don't know. It's maybe there's a reason they chose that, and perhaps maybe it's just like a trial to see how it works out.
I mean, it is season content. So seasons doesn't necessarily mean that what they come up with stays, right? That's the point of a season, is they can make tweaks and they can roll it back, right? They can do different things. And that's kind of the point. But they're pushing towards, like, ever since they decided to go this open world route, they've been pushing more and more towards feeling more like an MMO. And now they're adding player trading in, which is great. They've needed to add that in for a while. Yes. It's fantastic. But it's feeling more and more like an MMO the further this goes on. And when you compare Diablo 4 as an MMO to other MMOs, it doesn't hold up. It is not meant. Yeah, a lot. It's not meant to be an MMO. I mean, even compared to frickin' Destiny 2, it is missing so much content, so much to do, that it just trying to push this way of like an MMO just doesn't feel right for Diablo.
I would say, to be fair, that I think they're going for more of an MMO light, and they do that well.
Yeah, and I don't know. I'm still sore that seasons run back to back. One of the best things about Diablo 3 was their gaps between their seasons, because it allowed you time to get hyped for a season, to get pumped up for it, and a reason to come back to the game. The fact that they're running their seasons back to back still sits bad in my mouth. I don't like it. I think it's a bad choice.
It's just a symptom of what you mentioned earlier. There's just constantly new games, and there's such a slew of competition. They have to give you a reason to keep playing their games. So it makes sense. It sucks, but it makes sense.
Yeah, I hate it personally. I think you should play the games you want to play, and games shouldn't make you feel guilty for not playing them. And you shouldn't feel guilty for choosing a game over a different game.
Yeah, developers have mastered the fear of FOMO, to say the least.
Yeah, no, Andromedus also mentions that Diablo 4 at least still has its original storyline compared to Destiny 2. Yeah, no, they've been on point with their storytelling with Diablo 4. Definitely from a story standpoint, Diablo 4 is the best entry in the game, and I am still excited for Vessel of Hatred, because I cannot wait to get back into the game and play the story again. But that's it, man. That's all Diablo is to me now, which is weird, because it was never a story game before. Like, I played Diablo 3 the first time to play the story. I played Diablo 2 the first time to play the story, but I played it once for those, and then continued to play it for years for the added content, for the G-Rift grinding, for the secret cow level farming, for the grind to 99. Like, there was so much there to continue to play.
Yes, but I'm also that person that whenever I made a new character, I watched those cutscenes every time.
Yeah, I did.
For D2 anyway. D2 anyway. I didn't for D3, and I haven't for D4, but simply because I don't know. Maybe it's just nostalgia. When I was a kid, I loved watching those cutscenes. There were something awesome about them.
I mean, they were pretty ahead of their time, for real. Like, those graphically back then were amazing. And I honestly, when I got Diablo 2 Resurrected, I watched them. I watch them more often than not, just because it's fun to see him again, man. It's that nostalgia. But I don't know. I think people are overestimating what this is doing to Diablo 4. I think people are a little too hyped for it. I think it's the wrong direction, but I also don't know how they're implementing the crafting. I don't know what I have to grind, how long to get these materials. You know what I mean? It's going to be a question of, well, how common are they? How easy is it going to be to get them? How much work is it going to be? What are the odds that I'm actually, like, is this going to be like transmog enchantment from Diablo 3, where, like, you got to fork over a ton of money and hope that you got enough gems to fucking finally roll the right stat on your gear when you go to re-enchant? Like, how are they actually implementing this? I didn't get a chance to watch the campfire, so I'm sure there's more information out there, but from what I've read and what I've seen of, like, their stat breakdown for their items, I'm not feeling it. It's not for me, so
that's fair.
Yeah. The PTR, if you are interested in it, the PTR for Season 4 goes live on April 2nd for PC players, and on May 14th, the season will launch. So if you're interested in playing, goes live on the 14th. It's going to be great for new Diablo 5 release in May. So Diablo 4, I still think the story is the only thing that it's standing on. But let's go ahead. You got anything?
The last thing I have to say is I think ultimately it'll probably be good for the game. And obviously the developers have some tweaking and modifications to do with the game. But ultimately, I think in the long term, it'll be good.
Yeah, I mean, the one thing I try and keep in mind with Diablo 4 is Diablo 3 had 10 years of development before Diablo 4 even came on scene. So Diablo 3 went through a lot of down before it got its up from its first expansion, its only expansion with Reaper of Souls. Reaper of Souls fixed a lot of Diablo 3. And I don't think this game is like, oh, it's a dead game and this is the end of Diablo, blah, blah. Like, I'm not doom and gloom that way. I'm just saying the way they're going this season isn't for me, and I'm still a little mad seasons run back to back. Overall, I'm hopeful for this game because, I gotta be honest, it really is a good, fun game to play. But it's just, with the number and different types of games there are nowadays, it's hard to stay to one game for any extended period of time. It is. Yep. Single player narrative games are just becoming easier and more popular because you can pick one live service game.
I would disagree with you on the single player becoming easier or more popular. We're just getting old and it's easier for us.
I think that's it. We got kids. Yeah. It's easier to just win by not playing at all, right?
Yes.
But speaking of story-driven narrative games, GDC happened this weekend.
Yeah.
And
it did.
UE's Unreal Engine's Unreal Games State of Unreal, I think is what they called it, announcement, gave us our first glimpse at Skydance Media's 1943 Rise of Hydra. So this is a game set in the Marvel universe, not the cinematic universe. Let me tell you, that Steve Rogers is not Chris Evans, so get over it.
Nope. Honestly, I'm the person that, like, I prefer it not to be the actress.
Same. The don't get me wrong, I love the actors that were the characters in the movie. They embodied them perfectly, but I don't know, something about seeing them digitalized into a video game just doesn't, it's that uncanny valley thing. I think it's not for me. I think this Captain America looks like a really good dude from the 1940s. Like, he has that kind of like jawline of a 1940s dude, like your stereotypical 1940s New Yorker, I guess. But they showed this game off, and for those of you who are watching along, this is built on Unreal Engine's latest update, 5.4, and this is all, from my understanding, this is all running in-engine. Obviously, it's not gameplay, but this is, everything you're seeing is what the game theoretically should, for all intents and purposes, look like.
The cutscenes. So if my time spending hours listening to / watching Digital Foundry,
there's the plug.
Yeah. if my hours over the past years have taught me anything, it's that engine, since absolutely nothing is real time, they're given a lot more assets to make it look better. They can make them look more cinematic. They can add more effects. They can add better graphics. Ultimately, because nothing is real time, nothing has to react to what's going on, nothing has to do what the player says. It's all done prior. It's all pre-rendered, effectively. Not effectively, it is pre-rendered. Therefore, in-engine is closer to what you're going to see the game look like while you're playing it, but it still is generally, in most cases, above the actual gameplay quality. But it's still going to be closer than just a straight or pure CG trailer. So keep that in mind.
I'm actually curious to see how this comes out, because I have seen a lot of projects that demonstrate, no joke, in-game footage that looks very similar to this. I have seen lots of in-game. So it'll be interesting to see what comes out. I honestly think we're getting to a point where the gap is so small. I mean, I can tell you right now, they're using MetaHuman for their facial meshes.
Yes.
Like, that's just obvious, right?
It's clear.
Yeah. So I don't know. I'm very excited to see it. I
would argue to say that the quality in this isn't terribly far off from Uncharted 4 last gen.
Yeah.
So
wait, the quality?
Obviously it's better, but it's like Unreal, just specifically Uncharted 4 was so amazing quality wise that it's more of a testament to Uncharted 4 than it is any sort of detriment to Unreal Engine 5. But my point is that is yours effectively is that the Uncanny Valley is so close that it's there's no point in doing CG Trilogy anymore.
Yeah,
that you can, yeah.
It's yeah. It so this is Amy Hennig, right? Is the name
Amy
of
Hennig, yeah.
She's the writer and director for this game, and she, funny enough, was the writer director, I believe, on
Uncharted 1, 2, and 3.
Yeah. So that's kind of funny that you get some Uncharted vibes from this. I feel like there's, she's drawing on some of her strengths, but this was announced, I guess, in 2021, and they didn't show anything for it back then. I'm trying to rack my brain, and I don't remember its announcement. I think they just maybe did a title card for it. I don't recall. But they also...
I don't even know if they did a title card for it. I think at best it was more of like hey, we're working on something like this.
Yeah. Because they also announced...
so this wouldn't be Amy Hennig's first title that was announced since leaving Naughty Dog.
Right.
And the only worry I have is I think this is actually like the third title.
Is it really?
I know for sure she had a Star Wars title in the makes.
So that's actually supposedly still in the works because that was announced in 2022. So
I'm pretty certain that was canceled. I'm pretty fucking certain that was canceled. Go ahead and look that up or whatever at the moment. But I know she's announced more than one project, and I'm pretty sure all of them have been canceled and or failed in some way. Like they were never released. So that's the only concern I have is for whatever reason, her projects are always dropped for some reason. There could be good reasons for all I know.
Yeah.
But.
Well, it still lists the project on their skydance.com. So if it was canceled, they sure haven't updated their website yet. I'm trying to find the latest news about it.
I feel like it was canceled. I'll look this up, but go ahead and give your piece on this, and I'll do my looking up.
Yeah. So basically, the gameplay loop apparently is going to be a narrative-driven action-adventure game. You're actually going to play as 4 characters, the 4 we see at the end of the trailer there. Of course, one of them is Captain America. The other one is going to be, of course, Black Panther. You're also going to play as Gabriel Jones, who is a member of the Howling Commandos, and Nanali, who is a Wakanda spy in occupied Paris. I'm actually really curious to see how they end up doing that. If it's going to be like you play them in chapters and it just jumps to a different character in a different chapter. If they're going to be selectable for missions. I'm interested to see how they roll through those characters.
Honestly, maybe I'm just biased in the sense of Uncharted games, but I'm really hoping it's extremely linear in the sense of story driven. They're going to guide you through this, and it's not open world to where I can not Far Cry or
no, I don't think it's going to be at all.
Game for that matter. I don't think so either. But I'm hoping it's a very linear story-based game where they just direct what's happening at all times, and you can just experience it.
Yeah,
and that's what Amy Hennig does so well, and so that's another reason I'm hoping that's the case. Because the Star Wars project was supposed to be more of an open world project.
Open world and narrative driven don't usually go together. Those are hard. Those are hard franchises to marry, right? Like I think the closest you're going to get to that is The Witcher. I can't think of another game.
I would say Horizon. Horizon's done a phenomenal job with them.
Yeah, I mean, but like Horizon is really good. I think The Witcher did a lot of its depth of world better than Horizon did. And Horizon was a first entry, so it's understandable. Plus, it also wasn't a book series with lore built behind it. So Witcher had a little bit of extra in its court. But I think a lot of the depth of Witcher 3 is there because of what the world was already built as. Because of the books and things like that. But that's just my opinion. I haven't played Horizon 2. I'm sure Horizon 2, as you've said, is better in every way. So I imagine in that world building way, it's also better. But this is just one of a handful of games, supposedly, that Disney is working with publishers on to make in their owned IPs. They're also working with Insomniac, Quantum Dream, Ubisoft. As we know, we've got Star Wars Outlaw, Bethesda, Respawn, Arcane, and others in an effort to revive kind of their gaming franchising,
Okay.
I guess.
So start over. You just announced a whole bunch of developers, and maybe I misheard the beginning of what you said.
They're working with Disney
Say that
to
again?
make. So those developers are working with Disney to make games in the Marvel and the Spider-Man universe. Star Wars universes. Yeah.
Yeah. So Insomniac is Spider-Man, and obviously we know Wolverine in any case. My misunderstanding was like they were all working together on one
No.
project.
No. Yeah.
That's one project.
No, that would be insane. That would probably
Golly.
bankrupt Disney.
Can you
That would be
imagine?
that would actually be a quadruple A game, unlike what Skull and Bones guy said.
What?
Which
No,
I just want to mention.
I
I want to mention how that game came out. He said that, and there's been no news about the game ever since. So it clearly was just god awful. I've heard nothing about that game since it's released. So
You're right. It released and died instantly.
Yeah.
Although no news is good news, right?
No,
so
not
it
in video
hasn't.
games.
Not necessarily. Not necessarily. When a game is absolute dog shit, people just constantly fucking talk about it. Just look at
fair
the
enough.
Cyberpunk 2077.
Yeah.
So in this case, if no one's constantly dogging it, at the very least, they're gonna have. They're going to have a player base, regardless of that size, that are enjoying it, and they're not constantly talking shit about it. So,
Or the flip side, there is no player base, nobody played it, and nobody's there to report how bad it actually is.
I mean, I can kind of say the same thing about Suicide Squad. Like, there was a lot of bad press about it at first, but
Yeah.
then it also instantly disappeared. So now I'm curious. Now I'm really curious about Skull and Bones.
But yeah, anyways, I thought it was funny that everybody the highly anticipated game of Skull and Bones finally comes out and it's just radio silence. Like it came out and died quicker than the day before did. It was just gone immediately.
I mean, quicker? Really?
Not really. It's hyperbole, but
It's really hard to beat 4 days.
that's quite the record. That's quite the record.
If something beats that,
It's a scam. I mean, that's the only way you're beating 4 days is literally scamming your audience.
no one's gonna ever hear this in the sense of like they're gonna call me up and win. But if something beats that game the day before,
Days
if something
gone before
can
us.
beat that game, can die before the day before, I don't think anything's ever going to beat it. But if something does, and someone calls it, and calls me on that, I will buy you a modern console. I don't care what it is.
Damn.
But you have to call the game.
Tag Tim in the X post.
And tag me in the expo. Make sure that you link this episode and that you call me out on it, and then it has to actually happen.
Damn. Tim makes a hefty bargain. That's a hefty bet. That's the name of this. That's the name of this episode now. Tim makes a hefty bet. Yep, hefty bet.
A hefty bet and a giveaway. That's what it is.
There you go. There it is. All right. Well, that's all we really know about 1943. That's still heavily under wraps. We still don't know really a whole lot of anything. But it looks cool. I love narrative games. I love Marvel, even for all its flaws recently with movies and the catastrophe that is
movies. Don't even
everything.
bring them up.
Yeah, everything that's going on over there. But video games are always a win in my book, and I'm here for a story-driven, narrative, linear game from one of the main people behind Uncharted, one of the best linear narrative story games we've had in a while.
The only thing I'm going to say is like it's really hard for me to get behind Amy Hennig because ever since she left Naughty Dog, everything she's touched has fallen to shit because nothing has come out.
Yeah, but you don't know that that's her fault.
That's the thing. I've read actually a lot of what she's had to say because she's done interviews and so on and so forth. And like, I don't want to blame her. And I at this point, I don't. I can't say anything until something she's worked on releases.
Yeah, it's a true story.
Like, I really can't. I'm trying to be as fair as possible. So at this point, it's just becoming like disheartening simply for the fact that where's the project you've made, or you've started at least 3. It might be more, but I can remember at least 3, but nothing has come out. So and just to give a tiny little bit of information on the Star Wars game as early or as soon as, or more recently. The word I'm looking for is recently. As recently as June of last year. Apparently, the game's not canceled.
Yeah,
the Star Wars game?
I just saw that article too. Dominic Robillard.
Yes.
He was the director behind Star Wars.
Robillard?
Yeah, Robillard, maybe.
He joined the team in June. Yeah.
Yep. He was the director behind the canceled Star Wars 1313, which was going to be a great game.
Looked amazing. Yeah, it looked amazing. Yeah.
So yeah, it seems like it's still in the works.
I could have sworn that was canceled, but good thing it's not.
Yeah.
Yeah. Anyways.
Let's talk about... go ahead.
No, go ahead.
I was just going to move us on if you had something else to say.
So she did have a canceled Star Wars game. I was correct. I'm sorry. I'm finding another article.
I think it was an earlier... Yeah. I don't know.
Yeah, man. It was one before the current one. She had a development studio called Ragtag, and it was canceled in 2022. So I guess she's working on a different one, and somehow I missed that.
And it got announced in 2022. That to me seems more like they closed it and said, well, we're going to move you over here and have you work on this project. I don't know. That's a weird one.
Or the project morphed into something different, and so it was effectively canceled. The original project was canceled because it became something different.
Like Last of Us, like Jak and Daxter 4 becoming Last of Us.
For The Last of Us, yeah exactly.
But yeah, let's talk about the game you have yet to play, Dragon's Dogma 2. Before we started, I mean, you might as well. Like, just make sure you do it into the mic, and I'll shut up so we can get that sweet ASMR audience. So I'll have you open it in. All right, I'm going to shut up for a minute. Audience, there might be a little bit of silence here. He's going to open it.
I don't know if my NVIDIA podcast is going to get rid of this.
It's probably I just thought of that. It's probably going to cut it all out.
Well, I'll make sure the camera can see it.
There you go.
There's my glorious disc that I'm dropping.
It's all right. It's just for show anyways. Go download the game now.
Dragon's Dogma 2 with sadly no manual because the industry thought it was a good idea to get rid of those.
Yeah. What's the point of them nowadays?
The gloriousness of looking at and reading stuff about the video game before. That's what the point is.
Remember when
industry for getting rid of it.
You remember when we had to do that to play video games?
Yes.
You remember? Remember when the frequency that you needed for Metal Gear Solid 1 was on the back of the fucking case?
I was just about to state that. I remember looking at the damn case and going, "Huh, cool," and then just throwing it away, and then playing the game and going, "What the fuck?" And back of the case, what does that mean? Oh, cool. anyways.
Or, Psycho Manus, plug your controller into player 2.
Yes. I wish there'd be more games like that, but how do you do that these days?
Dude, I don't even know. I don't know that you can. You don't plug controllers in anymore. Anyways, let's talk about Dragon's Dogma 2.
Yeah.
So before we started, you said this is basically a remake.
So, yes and no. In the sense that the game... So here's the best way to describe it that I can think of. It's a parallel universe in the sense that the premise is similar in the fact that there's a dragon that picks somebody who becomes the Arisen because he takes that person's heart. And that there are pawns in the game that are otherworldly beings that can cross multiple realities or worlds or whatever, however you want to word it, that help the Arisen. And there are different Arisens, i.e. my character that's an Arisen and your character that's an Arisen, and you each have a pawn and we can summon each other's pawns. Like, the basics are the same, but the world is different. The major cities are different. The story that plays around it is different. The enemies and the characters and everything else is different. So it's like it's almost like Final Fantasy. That's probably the best way I can think of to describe it.
Yeah, so it's like not connected at all.
Yes.
Okay.
It's not connected at all. So it's almost exactly like Final Fantasy, and I only just made that connection. There's a lot of similarities in some basic things, but also fundamental things. But everything else is different. That's actually a really good way of thinking about it. And I really hope this game does really well now, because Final Fantasy has morphed in some really cool ways over the past 30 years.
Yeah.
It'd be really interesting to see something like this happen. Personally, based on what I've seen about the game, from what I've talked to friends who've played it and what I've read on, say, Twitter and so on and so forth, that I can see this becoming a major Capcom franchise. Simply because of the combat is fun as shit. You can really, really, really alter your character. I mean, I don't think we've talked about it here yet, but there's been some really cool. The character creator is is robust.
We've talked
I
about
made
it a couple
Legolas.
times. Yeah.
Yeah, I made a Legolas over the weekend because the character creator came out before the game did, so you can make your character that way. It's available and ready for you once the game comes out. And needless to say, I suck at character creators, but it was decent, kind of. But I've seen some really cool ones, from Nightmare Pikachu's to Gandalf's that look exactly like him from the movies.
I still think about the Michael Jackson I saw that was just way too fucking accurate, dude. The nose was so spot on. I'm like, what the fuck?
Dead on. Yeah. Anyways, the game is extremely similar in a lot of ways, but very different in a lot of ways. And the developer it's the developer behind Devil May Cry. There's been a little bit of controversy around the game in the sense that, as we stated before the podcast started, is the PC version doesn't run super well currently. And who would have guessed it was built on PC or console first and ported to PC, and therefore the PC version has troubles. But that's basically PC gaming right now.
Yeah, give it about 3 months and it'll be ironed out. Maybe 6 at the worst.
Yeah, or you can just download fan mods that fix it in a couple weeks. But the real thing that seems to be up everyone else's britches is mostly the fact that there's microtransactions in the game. And the reason why people are upset about this is because there was no microtransaction talk, end of story, whatsoever before the game launched. And then the game launched, like even the reviewers, like IGN and all the other big websites, had no idea there was a microtransaction store. They played the game, they reviewed the game, and then it came out, and oh wait, there's a microtransaction store now? What the hell is this? So, none of the reviews reflect that, except for a few of them that have since amended their reviews. However, the game gives you just about everything you might need or want in the game. They give you a limited quantity. So, like, as an example, Dragon's Dogma 1, there was these teleport stones. They're called... hold on, I'm looking for the name. Port crystals. They were called port crystals. They are fast travel crystals that you can place anywhere in the world that you want to. If you want to fast travel to a certain location, then you can place it down there and you're good to go. The first game, you got one. The whole playthrough. If you played the game again, New Game Plus, it wasn't called that back then, but if you played the game again, you would get a second one. But that was 2 you could have, and so on and so forth. You could continue to play and beat the game multiple times and get multiple port crystals. The game gives you 3 of them the first playthrough. However, if you want to buy more with microtransactions, you can. It's an additional $3 per port crystal. So you can fast travel to multiple areas. But the thing is the developer themselves have already stated what they think about fast travel. They think it's lazy. It allows you to skip over major portions of the game. You might miss out on finding stuff organically or randomly. And it's developers' lazy way of getting you to what they deem necessary. And I've been stating this for probably 8 to 10 years at this point. I hate fast travel. I think it sucks. I'm okay with fast travel in the way of, say, Red Dead Redemption 2 or Spider-Man, the Insomniac Spider-Man 1. I don't like Spider-Man 2's fast travel because it's anywhere at any point whenever you want to. But I like the Red Dead Redemption style where you have to go to a very specific location. You have to then say, hey, I want to fast travel, but they only give you a very limited number of places you can fast travel to. And so that feels more organic. In Red Dead Redemption, it was a wagon. Mm-hmm. Hey, I'm going to pay for this wagon service, and it takes me across the world. Yeah. So like that makes sense. That fits the world. And this game is kind of that. Fast travel, like being able to teleport, shouldn't be a thing. And so, but it's a magic world, and sure, you can have a teleport crystal that allows you to teleport from here to there, but you have to acquire this super rare object, and then you can place it down where you want to, and then you can travel to that point when you want to. It fits the world. Anyways, there's other things as well that they've added into microtransactions. There's a thing called Wake Stones. They're effectively Phoenix Downs from Final Fantasy. They allow you to revive your dead characters. And if you want to buy more, they're $1 a piece. There's also Explorer's camping kits, which give you they take up less inventory space. So effectively giving you more inventory space. And then just other little things like that. You can buy stuff to change your character's appearance, which they give you multiple of those. I think they give you 5 of those in the base game. There's you can buy music and sound packs for a certain amount of dollars, but I'm not seeing anything that's more than $3 at a piece. Basically, in saying all of this, there's actually quite a bit more options than that. But they're all really cheap, and two, they're all ignore it.
Can you
pretend it's not there?
Can I ask, just because again I tried to play Dragon's Dogma 1 a couple of times and just failed at it, just couldn't get into it. The rezzing stones, what are the point of them exactly? I guess because like they res your character, but if you die, don't you just go back, like reload a save? I don't or is there
just
permanent
like every
death?
other game?
Yeah.
Yes.
So what's the point of a Phoenix Stone?
This just allows you to revive characters while you're out in the field. So this is Dragon's Dogma has always been more of one of those more hardcore RPGs in the sense of when your characters die and you're out of combat, your characters don't just come back to life, and reviving them takes work.
By characters, do you mean like pawns, or are you talking about the actual player character?
Pawns.
Okay.
Yeah, if your character dies, then you're gonna reload save.
That's what confused me. I was like, what? But what? Don't you? Okay, now I'm understanding.
Yeah, pawns. So instead of having to run all the way back to town because you only have a limited number of teleport crystals, instead of having to run halfway across the world, you can just
got it.
Snap a finger and they're back.
Yeah.
So it allows for convenience, I guess is the best word. And so people are upset that these are locked behind real money transactions. But again, so like I've got multiple friends playing this game, from work friends to people I know personally to what I've read on Twitter and so on and so forth. A lot of these people either one had no idea there was a microtransaction store, or two, they're just choosing to ignore it. I mean, hell, even IGN says the same thing. What I just said. Yeah. Ultimately, sure, there's microtransaction store, but how about you just pretend it's not there and have fun? Like, they're really not that big a deal. You can ignore them. They're not in your face. They don't constantly remind you they're there. They're just options. It's a single player game. It doesn't affect anybody else but you. If you want to give them more money to make your experience slightly easier, go ahead. But I mean, like, at the same time, to give people that might be upset about this a little bit of credit, back in the day, this wouldn't have been an issue. Although back in the day, there might have been the limited number of quantities that they give you in the game currently, and that's it. There was no options.
Well, it's funny how things change through time, right? Yeah. So I'm reminded, as we're talking about the fast travel thing, I'm reminded of the mods for Skyrim, where people literally modded the game to remove fast travel. They took it out of the game. And now we have people crying that they can't fast travel. Well, I mean, I can kind of understand the convenience of it, right? But when the developers are telling you themselves, we built this game to have surprise interactions, for exploration, for you to find things organically, and a fast travel system, this is the one thing that I don't like. Fast travel system automatically, inherently interrupts that. So why even bother to put it in the game at all, other than to market it as a microtransaction for money? So like, I can kind of understand some of the players' complaints, but from a different standpoint of, if it interrupts your gameplay, if it doesn't fit what you were trying to do narratively, gameplay wise, whatever, why do it in the first place if you're not only doing it as a way to market microtransactions to make more money to the players who are too lazy to play the game the way you intended?
So I think my thought process on all of this would be, the first game, there obviously was no microtransactions. This was 2012. Yeah. They weren't really all that popular then. Nowadays, they're giving players more port crystals, more fast travel options. Yeah. By just playing the game than the original game did, because people have become very, very accustomed to fast travel.
Right.
But because of the world that it is now, I can almost guarantee, I've read enough stories where developers have stated that effectively they were forced to introduce some sort of microtransaction system.
That makes sense.
And so that's probably the case here. Capcom probably forced them to, in some way, shape, or form. And so they tried to find the least intrusive way to do so, but also the way that would benefit the players that were willing to give them money the most.
That makes sense.
And so the people that don't want to have to, quote, pay for more are upset because they feel like that stuff should be included to begin with.
Sure.
But if in my mind, if you, in this case, effectively pretend that the game doesn't have a microtransaction store, ignore it, never look at it, don't think about it, you're going to enjoy the game regardless, because it's exactly what the first one was as far as what your expectations would be, and you would never be hindered. And in effect, you would actually be given more than the first game gave you.
Right.
So,
I guess that makes sense. I mean, that's kind of what we saw with Battlefront 2 when it came out, right? There was a huge outcry about that game because of the microtransactions, but the developers were pushed against the wall and literally told to make microtransactions, but were then also told that they couldn't make, like, cosmetic microtransactions because canon. So,
So it's sort of a catch-22 for the developers, unfortunately. That's my expectation. I actually haven't read anything that specifically stated that Capcom, someone above the developers stated that they had to do so. Right. But given the world that we're in, that's almost guaranteed to be the case.
Yeah.
But ultimately, they're not like, like say Call of Duty's. They had a red dot scope that was like $5.
Dude, all right. Here's the worst.
There's been some extremely ridiculously bad. I mean, hell, even Diablo 4 has had some really bad microtransactions.
I would say
these are minimum at best.
I would say the worst one. I think the worst one is Halo Infinite re-released the Mjolnir Mark V armor from Halo 1 and charged $30. Yeah. $30.
It was more than Halo 1 costs.
Yeah.
I remember that.
Just like, I mean, like, I guess the game's free and I've played it enough that maybe I'll pay for that at some point, but I'm not doing it right now.
Yeah, you'll pay for it when it goes on a sale of 85%
off. Yeah, you know me. Frugal as fuck.
No. I just mean like that's when it becomes worth it for anybody.
Pretty much, yeah. But yeah, I mean, I want to play Dragon's Dogma 2. I'm rewatching this trailer and I'm like, damn, it looks good. Like, it looks like it should be a game I love. And I'm mad at myself because I have Dragon's Dogma on PS4, on Switch, on PC, on PS3. I've got it everywhere, and I just...
Dragon's Dogma is one of those games that you effectively have to stop playing everything else because of the way that it's built. I don't know if Dragon's Dogma 2 is built in the same way, because I've yet to play it. You saw me open it earlier. I hope that it's not that way, but I wouldn't be terribly surprised if it is. But again, the developer, Shinji Mikami, at least I believe that's the developer at this point now, I'm not sure. In any case, I would imagine the developer has adopted more modern practices in the sense that it's easier for you to hop in and hop whenever you feel like and put it down maybe for a little bit of time if you
that's the big thing too, is like I've got to have a game that I can just get in and get out of, and that's why PUBG has always been my bastard wife, I guess is the best way to call that one. She's my abusive girlfriend because it's a game I can jump in and jump out.
And that's why I kind of really got into Genshin Impact. Is one, hot waifus, and two, it's easy to put up and put down.
Yep. Well, on that note, I think we're ready to close. Tim, do you have any final thoughts before we kind of recap our giveaway?
No, not particularly. Okay. I think... Yeah, no. I'm going to stop there.
Okay. So just to recap real quick on the giveaway, that is going live as of right now. Tim is giving away 1 month free of Humble Bundle Choice. In order to be entered in that, you need to follow us on Twitch at twitch.tv/CoinDropVets or on YouTube at youtube.com/CoinDropVods. That's VODS. And then join our Discord and show us that you've done that. I'll probably have gotten an email, but at the same time, screenshots are always great. If you're already... Good.
I'm always paying attention to the Discord. So you can either tag me specifically, which if you just look, you'll see me. My name is literally on there. Or if you just post it, I'm going to see it. I literally look at every message that goes up there. So. Also, one thing I can state, that if you're new to the Discord, look at the rules page. If you want to gain access to the remainder of the Discord and not be kicked by a bot that we have built in, go to the rules page and just do what it says. It's really, really simple.
Yep. Read the rules, click the green check mark, you're in the server. So that easy. Also, if you're an audio listener, you don't want to do either of those, just leave us a review on Spotify. You throw in some feedback there, we'll give you 2 entries into our...
There you go.
So hit us on Spotify. You can find us, CoinDrop, one word on Spotify. podcast. We are the unlocked one. There's 2 versions of it on there. I believe the black background is locked. That is a Patreon exclusive playlist specifically for our Patreon subs. Don't know why it shows up to public, but it does. If you see locked, go to the other one. You'll find it just fine. Those of you who are currently in our Discord, if you want to be in on this giveaway, just go ahead and throw a message up in general right now and we'll add you. The drawing will be 30 days out from today. So exactly 1 month out, we'll do the drawing and let you know who got it and contact that individual. And we will make sure to
plug, as I mentioned earlier, potentially individuals.
Or potentially individuals. Yeah, that's about it, guys. Thank you so much for listening. We'll continue to plug that, I guess, at the top and bottom of each episode until the drawing is done. And we'll see you next time.
Tell your mom I said hi.
There it is.